A single jar on a kitchen counter holds 28 strains of living bacteria, yet the best probiotic capsule you can buy holds only 10. That jar costs pennies while the capsule costs dollars every month, and the 5 plants that fill it grow in any backyard. By the end of this video, you will know all 5, how to ferment each one, and why the supplement industry prayed you would never learn this. Hey, before we get into it, if you have ever wondered what plants were growing in biblical times and how you can actually grow them in your own garden today, go check out Eden's Harvest. Trust me, they are bringing scripture to life in a way you have never seen before. Walk into any pharmacy in America tonight, walk past the cold medicine aisle, walk past the vitamins, and you will find an entire section dedicated to gut health. Rows of plastic bottles with clean labels promise billions of living organisms inside. Capsules sealed in blister packs, powders in single-serve sachets, gummies shaped like fruit. The packaging is polished. The promises are enormous, and the prices will make your wallet hurt. The global probiotics market crossed $77 billion in 2025. Analysts project it will more than double within the next decade. The supplement segment alone generates billions every single year. Fish oil had its era. Protein powder had its era. Probiotics are the current gold rush. And just like every gold rush, someone is getting rich while everybody else keeps digging. Here is what most people never realize about those capsules. Your gut contains roughly 30 to 40 trillion microorganisms, hundreds of different species, an entire ecosystem more complex than a coral reef. The average probiotic supplement contains between 1 and 10 bacterial strains, 1 to 10. That is like trying to restore a rainforest by planting 3 saplings in a parking lot and hoping the jungle figures itself out. But the problem runs deeper than strain count. The bacteria inside that capsule are freeze-dried. They were alive once, inside a sterile factory under controlled conditions. Then they were frozen, dried, pressed into powder, packed into gelatin shells, sealed in plastic bottles, loaded onto trucks, shipped across the country, and placed on a shelf under fluorescent lights. By the time you swallow one with your morning coffee, those organisms have endured manufacturing, months of storage, your stomach acid, and your bile. Many of them do not survive the trip. Viability drops during storage, especially without refrigeration. You are paying for a promise that biology cannot always keep. The average American household spends between $100 and $300 per year on probiotic supplements. That is a monthly expense, a subscription, an auto refill that charges your card whether you remember to take the capsule or not. The industry depends on you coming back every 30 days. It depends on you never learning that the same bacteria in far greater diversity and in a living state can come from a jar you make in your own kitchen for the cost of a vegetable and a spoonful of salt. Now consider the economics. You cannot patent salt. You cannot patent a glass jar. You cannot patent the bacteria that already live on the skin of a vegetable pulled from your garden 10 minutes ago. A crop that you grow yourself cannot generate supplement revenue. A fermentation process that needs no factory cannot generate processing fees. A living food that keeps for months in your refrigerator cannot generate monthly subscription income. Every single jar of homemade fermented vegetables is a canceled subscription, and canceled subscriptions are what keeps supplement executives awake at night. Now step back 8,000 years, long before pharmacies, long before gelatin capsules, marketing budgets, or wellness influencers. Somewhere in what is now northern China, around 7000 BCE, people were already fermenting food. Archaeologists found the chemical residue in ancient pottery, fermented rice, fermented fruit, fermented honey. The oldest evidence of deliberate fermentation on Earth is older than the pyramids by more than 4,000 years. They did not know what bacteria were. They had no microscopes and no understanding of microbiology. But they understood something simpler and far more powerful. Food that bubbles lasts longer, and people who eat it get sick less often. That single observation, repeated across thousands of years on every inhabited continent, built the foundation of the most widespread food preservation method in human history. In Korea, families have been fermenting vegetables for over 2,000 years. Every autumn, entire neighborhoods still gather for kimjang, the communal preparation of fermented vegetables for the long winter ahead. The tradition is so deeply woven into daily life that the United Nations recognized it as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Not a museum exhibit, but a living practice carried out by millions of Korean families every single year. In Germany and across Eastern Europe, stone cellars held oak barrels packed with salted fermented cabbage. Sailors loaded those barrels onto ships to prevent scurvy on long voyages because fermentation preserved the vitamin C that cooking destroys. Captain James Cook carried fermented cabbage across the Pacific Ocean. Entire naval fleets survived on it. In Japan, neighborhood shops have specialized in rice-bran fermented pickles for centuries. In India, regional fermentation traditions number in the hundreds, each adapted to local climate and local ingredients. In Mexico, fermented vegetable condiments accompany rural meals just as they did generations ago. In West Africa, fermented plant foods still form the backbone of traditional diets. Every civilization with agriculture discovered fermentation independently, not because they communicated across oceans, but because the biology is universal. Salt suppresses harmful bacteria, while beneficial bacteria already living on the surface of fresh vegetables thrive in that salty environment. They produce lactic acid, which preserves the food for months. The flavor deepens, the texture changes, and the bacterial population explodes into a complex living ecosystem inside the jar. Modern science finally measured what those civilizations practiced by instinct. A single batch of naturally fermented vegetables can harbor up to 28 distinct bacterial strains, multiple species working in a living community. Some produce lactic acid to preserve the food, some generate B vitamins, some break down fiber into short-chain fatty acids that feed the cells lining your intestinal wall. Some compete directly against harmful organisms and crowd them out. This is not a supplement. This is a living ecology in a jar. No factory on Earth replicates what a vegetable, salt, and 7 days on a kitchen counter can accomplish. Now here are the 5 plants. Every single one grows in a home garden. Every single one ferments with nothing more than salt and water. And every single one produces a living probiotic food that outperforms the capsule sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now. The first plant is one you already know. It grows on a vine in the heat of summer and produces the green fruit that Americans slice into salads, float in water pitchers, and most importantly, turn into pickles. But here's the truth that almost nobody understands. Most pickles sold in grocery stores across America are not fermented at all. They are cucumbers soaked in vinegar. Read the label next time you're in the condiment aisle. Vinegar, water, salt, preservatives, yellow dye, no living bacteria, no probiotic benefit whatsoever. Those jars are preserved, not fermented. 2 completely different processes, producing 2 completely different results. The real fermented pickle, the kind that sat in ceramic crocks in your great-grandmother's root cellar, uses only cucumbers, water, salt, and thyme. No vinegar, no preservatives. The bacteria already living on the cucumber skin do the work. Within days, lactobacillus species dominate the jar. These are the exact same organisms that supplement companies isolate, freeze dry, and sell back to you at a $40 markup. One strain in particular, Lactobacillus plantarum, survives the acid in your stomach, reaches your intestine alive, strengthens the gut barrier, and actively fights harmful organisms. It is one of the most studied probiotic bacteria in modern science, and it grows for free on the skin of a cucumber hanging off a backyard trellis. Growing cucumbers is one of the simplest warm season tasks in any garden. Sow seeds after the last frost, give them a fence or a trellis to climb, water consistently. In 50 to 60 days, you are harvesting. For fermentation, pack fresh cucumbers into a wide-mouth glass jar with a few cloves of garlic and a handful of fresh dill. Dissolve about 2 tablespoons of sea salt in a quart of water and pour the brine over the cucumbers until they are fully submerged. Cover the jar loosely, leave it on the counter for 3 to 7 days. When you see bubbles rising through the brine, the bacteria are working. Move the jar to the refrigerator. It now contains billions of living probiotic organisms. Total cost: 1 cucumber, a clove of garlic, and a pinch of salt. But the next plant makes the cucumber jar look modest. This single vegetable, when fermented, produces the highest bacterial diversity of any common fermented food ever measured. And a serving as small as 2 tablespoons delivers enough living organisms to match what you get from a probiotic capsule costing $2 a day. Cabbage. When you shred cabbage and add salt, a microbial succession unfolds over the following weeks that scientists have studied for decades. First, one bacterial group dominates and begins producing carbon dioxide and lactic acid. Then a second group takes over and deepens the acidity. Finally, Lactobacillus plantarum rises to dominance and stabilizes the entire community. Researchers have documented up to 28 distinct strains in a single batch of fermented cabbage. No supplement on any shelf in any pharmacy on this continent comes close to that diversity. In Germany and Eastern Europe, this fermented cabbage is called sauerkraut. Families packed it into barrels every autumn and stored it in root cellars where it fed them through the coldest months of winter. Sailors loaded it onto ships in Hamburg and Amsterdam, and they did not develop scurvy because fermentation preserved what cooking would have destroyed. In Korea, the same vegetable fermented with chili flakes, garlic, ginger, and scallion becomes kimchi. Korean families have been making it for over 2,000 years. A typical Korean household eats it at every single meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, weddings and funerals, holidays, and ordinary afternoons. Walk through the Gwangjang market in Seoul, and you will see vendors with enormous tubs of freshly made kimchi stacked on folding tables. Shoppers stop and taste samples without breaking stride because kimchi is as ordinary to them as bread is to a French family. Half a cup contains approximately 11.5 billion colony-forming units of living bacteria. That is more than most bottles on the supplement shelf. Growing cabbage is straightforward even for beginners. It loves cool weather and handles frost without complaint. Start seeds indoors or sow directly in early spring or late summer. Harvest when the heads feel firm and heavy. For sauerkraut, shred the cabbage finely and add 2% salt by weight. Massage the shredded leaves with your hands until liquid pools at the bottom of the bowl. Pack it tightly into a glass jar and press it down until the brine covers the surface. Ferment at room temperature for 1 to 4 weeks depending on your taste. For kimchi, toss the salted cabbage with chili flakes, minced garlic, grated ginger, and chopped scallion. Pack tightly and ferment for 3 to 7 days before moving the jar to the refrigerator. Both preparations keep for months. The bacteria stay alive the entire time. Now, there is a fermented drink from Eastern Europe that does something none of these jar foods can do alone. It works on an organ you probably never connect with the word probiotics: your liver. The plant is the beet. The drink is called kvass. In Russia, Ukraine, and Poland, beet kvass has been a household tonic for generations. Grandmothers in villages outside Kyiv and Krakow made it the same way their grandmothers taught them. The preparation is almost absurdly simple. Dice 2 or 3 beets, place them in a glass jar, add a teaspoon of sea salt and fill with clean water. Cover loosely. Wait 3 to 5 days. The result is a deep crimson liquid alive with probiotic bacteria and loaded with betalains, the pigment compounds that give beets their blood red color. Betalains are powerful. They reduce inflammation and neutralize oxidative stress throughout the body. But here is what makes beet kvass different from every other fermented food on this list. Your gut and your liver are directly connected by a blood vessel called the portal vein. Everything your intestines absorb travels through the liver before it reaches the rest of your body. When the probiotic bacteria in kvass strengthen your gut lining, they reduce the toxic load reaching your liver through that vein. And the betalains and betaine naturally present in the beets support the liver's own detoxification processes. 1 drink, 2 organs, 1 direct biological connection. The fermentation process converts most of the natural sugar in the beets into food for the bacteria. A 6-ounce glass of finished kvass contains roughly 1 gram of sugar. Compare that to a glass of commercial fruit juice at 25 grams or more. Growing beets takes almost no effort. They are a cool season root crop that tolerates a wide range of soil and weather. Sow seeds directly into garden soil in early spring or late summer. Thin the seedlings to about 3 inches apart. Harvest in 50 to 70 days when the tops of the roots push above the soil line. For K-Vass, dice the beets and place them in a quart mason jar with a teaspoon of sea salt and filtered water. Add a few slices of fresh ginger if you like. Ferment at room temperature for 3 to 5 days until the liquid turns a deep red and tastes pleasantly sour. Strain and refrigerate. Drink 3 to 4 ounces before meals. The leftover beet pieces can be used for a second, weaker batch. Nothing goes to waste. The next plant does something the other 4 cannot. It fights inflammation from 2 directions at once. It does so through living probiotic bacteria and through a molecule that medical researchers have studied for decades across hundreds of papers. No supplement on the market combines these 2 mechanisms, but one fermented food does: the hot pepper. The molecule is capsaicin. It creates the burning sensation on your tongue. But capsaicin does far more than produce heat. It reduces inflammation. It supports healthy metabolism. It acts as an antioxidant. Now combine those effects with the probiotic bacteria that develop during fermentation, and you get a food that attacks chronic inflammation from 2 completely different directions at the same time. In Korea, this combination has existed for centuries in a thick fermented chili paste called gochujang. It shows up in kitchens and restaurants across the entire country. When researchers studied traditionally fermented gochujang, they found something striking. The fermented version protected against intestinal inflammation, reduced key inflammatory signals in the body, and supported the growth of beneficial gut bacteria. The critical discovery was that the fermented paste significantly outperformed the unfermented version in every single measurement. Without fermentation, it is just spicy paste. With fermentation, it becomes a delivery system for both capsaicin and living bacteria working together. The process itself is what unlocks the power. Growing hot peppers takes warmth and patience. Start seeds indoors about 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. Transplant seedlings outside once the soil is warm. Harvest when the peppers reach full color. For fermented hot sauce, blend your peppers with fresh garlic and 3 to 5% salt by weight. Pack the mixture into a glass jar with some headspace at the top. Cover loosely. Ferment at room temperature for 5 to 14 days, opening the jar daily to release gas and stir. After fermentation, blend until smooth and bottle in the refrigerator. Every bottle is alive. The flavor deepens over weeks. The cost is a handful of peppers and a clove of garlic. The 5th plant is the one almost no Western gardener thinks to ferment, but in Korea, it is fermented more often than cabbage itself. In Japan, it is pressed into rice bran and aged for months in ceramic crocks. In China, it anchors an entire regional pickling tradition that stretches back centuries, and it grows faster than anything else in your garden. The radish. In Korea, cubed radish fermented with chili, garlic, ginger, and a touch of fish sauce is called kakdugi. It appears at nearly every meal right alongside cabbage kimchi. But it is not a duplicate. Different vegetables produce different bacterial communities during fermentation. The sugars in the radish, the microbes on its skin, the salt concentration, the surrounding temperature, all of these create a unique microbial fingerprint. A jar of fermented radish complements fermented cabbage the way 2 instruments complement each other in the same orchestra. Similar principles, different contributions. Together, something richer than either one alone. In Japan, large white daikon radish is salted, pressed, and aged in beds of rice bran to create a fermented pickle called takwan. The aging process can last for months, developing deep savory flavors and a dense bacterial population. In the Sichuan province of China, radish is a core ingredient in pao kai, a fermented vegetable tradition kept alive in ceramic vessels that families maintain for years, adding fresh vegetables and drawing out fermented ones in a continuous living cycle. In India, radish achar ferments with mustard oil and spices under the midday sun. 1 vegetable, 4 countries, 4 distinct fermentation traditions, 4 unique communities of living bacteria. This diversity is the entire point. Gut health research does not point toward one magic strain or one perfect capsule. It points toward variety. The more diverse the bacteria in your gut, the more resilient your entire system becomes. A garden producing 5 different fermented foods across the seasons is not just a food source. It is a rotating probiotic pharmacy where every jar introduces a different living community to your gut throughout the year. Radishes are the fastest crop in any garden. Some varieties mature in 25 days from seed to harvest. Larger daikon types need 50 to 60 days. Sow seeds directly into cool soil in spring or fall. They barely need attention. For kakadugi style fermentation, cube the radish and toss with salt, chili flakes, minced garlic, grated ginger, and a splash of fish sauce. Pack tightly into a glass jar. Ferment at room temperature for 2 to 4 days. For a simpler version, slice the radish and submerge in a 3% salt brine. Ferment for 5 to 7 days. Both methods produce living probiotic food from a crop that practically grows itself. Now step back and look at what just happened. 5 plants, 5 fermentation methods. All of them require nothing more than a garden, a glass jar, salt, and water. No factory involved, no patent required, no credit card on file for monthly auto refill. This is the economic reality that the supplement industry does not discuss. You cannot patent salt. You cannot patent a mason jar. You cannot patent a biological process that has been occurring on the surface of vegetables since before humans walked the earth. Lacto-fermentation is not an invention. It is a natural phenomenon, and natural phenomena cannot be owned. What cannot be owned cannot be sold at a premium. What cannot be sold at a premium does not fund a marketing department, and what does not get marketed never enters your consciousness. Search any medical research database for probiotic supplements, and you will find tens of thousands of studies, many funded by the companies that sell the capsules. Now search for homemade fermented vegetables probiotics, and the number drops dramatically. This is not because fermented vegetables work less, it is because fermented vegetables have no corporate sponsor. The studies that exist come primarily from Korean government research institutions, Japanese universities, and Chinese food science programs. The knowledge is documented, but it lives in languages and journals that Western supplement companies have zero incentive to translate or publicize. The pattern is identical to every suppressed plant this channel has ever covered. What cannot generate recurring revenue does not attract research funding. What does not get researched does not get recommended. What does not get recommended does not get known. 3 generations of Westerners grew up believing that gut health comes from a capsule, because nobody profits from telling you it comes from a glass jar on your kitchen counter. But the walls are cracking. Fermentation communities are growing every single month. Korean cooking channels have already taught millions of Westerners to make kimchi at home. Seed catalogs now feature dedicated sections for pickling and fermenting varieties. The information that took decades of industry dominance to bury is taking only years of shared knowledge to dig back up. Here is your plan. 5 plants, 1 growing season, a lifetime of living probiotic food. In early spring, when the soil is still cool, plant cabbage and radish. Both tolerate frost. Both grow fast. By late spring, the radishes are ready to harvest and ferment within days. The cabbage heads will be firm and dense by early summer. After your last frost date, when the soil warms up, plant cucumbers and hot peppers. Cucumbers produce in 50 to 60 days. Peppers take 70 to 90 days to reach full maturity. Both will keep producing through summer and into early fall. Beets go in the ground in either spring or late summer. They adapt easily. Harvest in 50 to 70 days. All 5 plants fit in a single raised bed. They fit in 5-gallon buckets on a balcony. They fit in containers on a porch. Total seed cost for all 5 is under $20. Total fermentation equipment is glass jars, sea salt, and water you already have. As each crop comes in, fermentation begins. Spring radish ferments within days. Summer cucumbers ferment within a week. Late summer cabbage becomes sauerkraut or kimchi by autumn. Fall beets become kvass in under a week. Late harvest peppers become fermented hot sauce that only improves through winter. By the end of one growing season, your refrigerator holds 5 different jars of living probiotic food. Each jar contains a unique bacterial community. Each one works differently inside your gut. Together, they deliver more microbial diversity than any supplement bottle on any pharmacy shelf in the country. Save seeds from every crop. Cucumbers produce seeds freely. Let a few radishes bolt, and they will give you hundreds of seeds for the following year. Peppers dry easily on a windowsill. Cabbage and beet seed saving takes a bit more patience, but it is simple enough. Within 2 growing seasons, you are no longer buying seeds. You are no longer buying supplements. The garden feeds the jars. The jars feed the gut. The gut feeds the body. And the whole system costs nothing but a little time, a little attention, and a spoonful of salt. The question was never why traditional cultures ferment their food. They fermented because it worked. The food lasted longer. The people who ate it survived brutal winters and tropical summers and centuries without refrigeration, without pharmacies, without monthly subscriptions arriving at front doors. The real question is why the modern world chose to forget, and the answer is not conspiracy. The answer is economics. What cannot be owned cannot be sold. What cannot be sold does not get advertised. What does not get advertised disappears from public memory within a single generation. But the bacteria do not care about revenue models. They care about salt concentration and temperature. They have been fermenting food on the surface of vegetables since long before humans existed. They will keep doing it long after the supplement industry reinvents itself for the 10th time. The only question is whether the jar on your kitchen counter will be one of them. 5 plants, 5 jars, 1 season, and then years of living food from a process so ancient and so simple that your ancestors practiced it without electricity, without science, without knowing a single bacterial name. They just knew the food in the crock kept them well, and it will keep you well too. And don't forget, if you want to grow the same plants that have been rooted in history since biblical times, Eden's Harvest has got you covered. Go show them some love.